Yeah.
Where's my?
It's up there, you see over there.
Okay. Okay, honey. How do I get my picture on here? Do you know how to do it?
Someone must have their phone on for this echo to be, so check your cell phone, put it on mute.
No, my phone.
Not me.
Jay, maybe can you mute everybody?
Okay, got it? Okay. And
Okay, I've muted everyone.
All right, everybody out of the waiting room?
Yes.
All right, excellent. Well, welcome everyone. This is the Human Rights Commission of the City of Palm Springs special meeting for Thursday, May 5th, 2021. First item on the agenda is roll call. Jay, can you assist with roll call, please?
Yes, Commissioner Andrade. Pardon me, letting others in. I did not see or hear a response from Commissioner Andrade. Commissioner Flood.
Here.
Commissioner Ramaran.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Shepard.
Present.
Vice Chair Chappelle.
Here.
Chair DeHart.
Present.
Student Representative Ella Cash. Student Representative Lily Hanner.
Here.
Going back, checking again on Commissioner Andrade.
I don't see her.
Do not.
Okay, quorum is present. So we move on to item 5, public comments. This time has been set aside for members of the public to address the Human Rights Commission on agenda items and items of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the commission. 3 minutes are allowed for each speaker. Although the commission values your comments pursuant to the Brown Act, it generally cannot take any action on items not listed on the posted agenda. Commissioners will not enter into discussion with speakers, but during commission comments may refer the matter to staff for report and recommendation at a future commission meeting. And Jay, do we have, who's up on comments first?
Mr. Chair, I would just like to note Commissioner Terry, I believe, has joined the meeting. I saw Terry join, not sure if ours. Okay, we'll proceed. I have no requests for public comment in advance of the meeting. So looking at the hands raised, Mr. Chair, there's quite a few hands raised if you would like to just call them out, or I'm happy to do.
Okay. The first one I see is Stacy's iPad, no last name.
Hi, how are you? Let me know when I can begin my 3 minutes.
You're on right now.
Awesome, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Stacy Johnson. I'm a resident and business owner in Palm Springs. My family has lived in the Valley and been upstanding members of this community since the 1940s. In fact, our grandparents and parents lived in Section 14. I'm speaking today out of concern and frustration at the current approach to the homeless and transient problem in Palm Springs. Month after month, the amount of people living on the street, the trash littered on our sidewalks, camps of homeless people in our shopping centers, street corners, parks, and our desert trails has grown out of control. Crime and drug use are on the rise at an alarming rate. This is completely out of hand and against the values and morals we have as a community. It is simply inhumane, unhealthy, and dangerous to allow people to sleep on the street unimpeded. It's not good for anybody, not the law-abiding members of this community, the business owners, the visitors, nor the people who find themselves living on the street in what amounts to being third world conditions. Goes without saying that many of these people have mental health issues and drug and alcohol addiction, which all translate into them being unstable, erratic, and potentially a danger to themselves and others. By letting this continue, we as a community and the city, at a minimum, are complacent, liable, and derelict of responsibilities. Make no mistake, it is our lack of policies that allow this problem to continue to grow unchecked. With all that I have mentioned, and what is clearly a dire and pressing human rights issue, it is disappointing that this committee is choosing to spend its time looking back and focusing an immense amount of energy on a statute. We should instead address our current homeless crisis. I skimmed your latest resolution, and while I will not comment on its contents, I will say that the extraordinary amount of time and money that obviously went into producing this document could and should have been put to better use. I ask that the HRC focus on dire, pressing current issues. We have a serious human rights issue going on daily. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Stacy Johnson. Let's see, next I see Dottie with a hand up. You can, as soon as you unmute, you can begin.
No, I know. It was about human rights in a school, and I'm just asking you.
There you go.
Good evening. I'm Dottie Wilder, and I just wanted to speak about the statue as well. I don't know too many people that have given as much of their adult life to one town as Frank Bogart has. And I came here in 1957. He was one of the first people I interacted with. He was at every function we had in the town, not just present, but working at the Desert Circus Parade, the rodeo, the kangaroo court, and he made it fun. And he talked to all of us, regardless. We not only had many races here, we also had many economic groups here. We had the very rich down to the very poor and everything in between. And he treated all of us the same. He talked to me just like you would talk to one of the rich and famous whose kids got picked up in a chauffeur-driven Lincoln after school every day. You know, many of the kids had to walk across the desert carrying their books and dealing with sandstorms. You know, so, and we all went to the same school. Frank was great. It was a very Western town during that time. That's what made it fun. I rode horses all over Section 14. My memory is Section 14 was pretty much open desert. It had some, you know, not very poorly built buildings on it. And at that time, the Indians owned the land. So Frank couldn't have done anything with the land unless the Indians wanted him to. So, and they could not lease out the land for more than 5 years at that time. And I remember I went to school with some of the kids of tribal leaders, and the tribal leaders are flying back and forth to Washington, D.C. every other month to make negotiations with for the land. And so I was about 14 when I heard that they got the right to lease out the land for 99 years. And I'm sure that that's when the tribe and the city wanted to clear it to be develop it as part of downtown. It was not directed at any group of people. And again, I think if somebody wanted this to be about the statue, they could have made it about a statue without disparaging a man who's not here to defend himself and gave most of his adult life to the city. And I think it's terrible to be talking about him so poorly. I interacted with him throughout. I saw him last just before he passed away. So throughout my whole adult life, or growing up and adult life.
You have 20
he
seconds
was great.
just to let you know. Thank you.
Okay, well, so that's basically, I would like to say, I think we should be showing him respect and not wanting to take down a statue in his honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Dottie Wilder. Next, I see Karen Braff.
Hi, this is Steve Braff. I'm Karen's husband. I'm on Karen Braff's phone.
Go ahead, Mr. Braff. You've got 3 minutes.
Thank you so much. I'm a Palm Springs resident, and I'm reading a statement prepared by the Friends of Frank Bogart. I wanted to open by saying that the resolutions that have been submitted by the commission have many misleading statements, quotes taken out of context and therefore misunderstood, and lead to a distortion of the facts relating to Frank Bogart in section 14. Very important is that the Friends of Frank Bogart, we are in the process of drafting a full and comprehensive rebuttal. It's already over 40 pages in length. It'll be complete. It will be submitted prior to the City Council's meeting on May 20th. So in respect for time, a very brief outline of the points that will be detailed in that submission. First, a challenge of the most serious allegations of HRC's resolution. We will be telling an accurate story of Bogart's conservatorship of Pete Siva and the mischaracterization by the HRC of that relationship. We wish to challenge the Department of Interior's investigation. We note a significant conflict of interest with the head of the task force that led to inevitable distortion of the findings, and highlight significant inaccuracies within the Department of Interior's findings. Further, to provide context, and within that context, criticism of the California Attorney General's report, and why his opinion, we would suggest his personal opinion on the matter, was grossly misinformed. And then give illustrations, show how the HRC took Richard Milanovich's quote out of context to support a false narrative about Frank Bogart. Secondly, we will identify misleading statements and claims, including facts presented absent context, attempts to falsely associate Frank Bogart with broader allegations that were made against others, unsubstantiated, use of hyperbolic and inflammatory language, and numerous other logical fallacies. Third, we want to set the record straight regarding the true story of Section 14. Explain how a century of ill-conceived federal policies culminated in the problems facing Section 14 in the 60s. The city's efforts to address Section 14 problem long before Frank Bogart became our mayor, and detail how Frank made the best out of an untenable situation, the lengths he went to build low-cost housing for the displaced, and illustrate the complexity of Section 14
There's about
problem.
10 seconds left, Mr. Braff.
Very good. Finally, provide commentary on HRC and City Council's attempt to remove the statute, why this attempt is driven by ideology, and conclude with anecdotes and quotes negating the HRC's resolution. We look forward to bringing the truth to the City Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve Braff. And oh, I see a hand up over here. Donna, no last name. Once you unmute, you've got 3 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. I am Frank Bogart's youngest daughter, Donna Higueras. I have read the resolution in its entirety. Once again, as Mr. Braff stated, it is full of lies and twisting, and I am not qualified to speak of the historical facts at the moment, but one item that really is bothersome to the family is the one where you're referring to my father leaving office in 1966 because he was being investigated. This is absolutely untrue. I have checked with his current wife. I have checked with other people, and my memory is that he left because my mother was, I'm sorry, I'm gonna start crying. My mother was currently dying of cancer at the time. And at the time, there was no money coming to the mayor as far as an employee of the city. He needed to find a job. He needed to get money to support my mother's mounting hospital bills. And that is the truth. Secondly, he also had some work in a PR company that was a conflict of interest. And that is the reason he left the city early. It is not because he was being investigated by the California Attorney General, you cite. This is very offensive to the entire family, as are many of your other allegations in this resolution. That's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you very much. I see a hand, Amado Salinas. As soon as you unmute, there you go.
There we go. Thank you. Thank you, Commission. And I want to go ahead and state that the statue was a gift to the city of Palm Springs, paid for by the residents and friends of Frank Bogart. This echoing is. It represented the individuals that gave so much of his life to make the city of Palm Springs a destination resort. Mayor Bogart represented why people should make Palm Springs their home, at a minimum, a great city to visit. He constantly promoted the city and did it so well that the current city council has now moved to Palm Springs and are enjoying the benefits and the fruits of the pioneers that came to create this city. The statue represents our freedom of speech and an artwork that stands there to state this was a Western town. And the man riding that horse dedicated his life to make this home for every individual. The residents of Palm Springs that I know of and have lived here since the 1950s want to go ahead and preserve this proud heritage. This heritage includes all walks of life, but it is the pioneers of the Old West that carved out a wonderful resort out of a desert dwelling. These pioneers faced countless challenges to grow the city in the Coachella Valley. There was no running water, no sewer systems, no paved streets. What was here was a small shacks, desert dunes, and palm trees. Those pioneers planted those roots deep, but those roots required a commitment from the men and women determined to make that seed planted by those individuals to go ahead and be part of our history. We all realize that sometimes our history may have past actions, but we use that to ensure that we don't make those mistakes again. Palm Springs has a rich heritage of individuals that have come here, and it is because of the constant work that our mayor, Frank Bogart, committed to the city. Sometimes
50
working
seconds left.
12, 15, 18 hours, it didn't matter. Traveling around to ensure individuals knew of Palm Springs. And you have to remember, this is way back in the 30s, in the 40s. So all these years, these individuals, these pioneers have worked
Time is
to
expired.
make sure
Mr.
that
Martinez.
we now are enjoying the benefits of this beautiful town.
Thank you.
I really
Mr.
do
Salinas.
hope
Your
that the Human
3
Rights
minutes is
Commission.
expired, and we'll go to the next speaker now. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I see Oron with, that could be the last name or the first name.
First name, last name, Jackson.
All right, Mr. Jackson, you've got 3 minutes.
All right, thank you. I was asked to speak tonight, and all I could think about was my grandmother who came here in '46. In 1956, Desert Sun reporter wrote, "The mess is indescribable, slums. This is even worse." And continuing on in the same light, the press enterprise weighed in, and they said the homes were death traps of tinder, dry wood, where families crowds in on one another in unsanitary profusion. Holding true to our history and practice as a nation, we often relegated a population of unwanted folks to a section of the city, and then when we deem that part of the city undesirable, and that section increases in value, we displace the inhabitants either by cunning or by force. The city I grew up in has long been laden with images, laws, and practices designed to ensure that people like me understood my second-class citizenry. From the tamarix trees on Crosley Track separating by both color and class to the city-supported fence and structures separating residents of Palm Springs Movie Colony from the lesser folks on Cottonwood and Chuckawalla to the city-sanctioned brick wall built in an effort to separate the planned community of Gateway Estates from the Black intruders that left Section 14 simply in search of a better life. Today, I think we're all asking these same Black folks that found their way to the north end of Palm Springs to ignore most of the hurtful images, the images that remind us of a painful journey. The very man that stepped away from his microphone to carry on about the coloreds and the homos, and like the tamarix trees, this gentleman is a symbol of the very hate that I believe Palm Springs has worked diligently to expel. So out of respect to those colored and homos that call Palm Springs home, please take down the statue. Thank you.
Aaron Jackson, thank you very much for your comments. I see Sid Hubbard. There you
Can
go.
you hear me now?
Yes,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Thank you. I don't have any prepared remarks, but I'm very interested in everything that's been said here. And I have told many people, first of all, I grew up in Palm Springs, and I'm now back in the desert area as a retired person. But for all those years in between, when I came in 4th grade and was a student at Catherine Finchie to the death of Frank Bogert in 2009, I considered him and his family friends. And I really am speaking from the heart. I've told people that I lived on Cali and Celia and Cali Segundo, and was there for the first about, I guess, 4 years that we lived in Palm Springs. And I don't usually tell people what a great time it was, because I would think with all the publicity now, no one would believe it. So I was very happy to come across a comment by Charles Jordan, who many of you will know who he is. He was a very famous basketball player in our Palm Springs High School, went on to be a commissioner here in Palm Springs, and then later the first Black commissioner in Portland, Oregon. And there's a lot of what recreation department is named after him in Portland. So he's an important person. And I came across his interview, which is in a city publication, where he says that he grew up in Section 14. And he said, if I'd lived in a mansion, I couldn't have asked for a better time, because there were so many different races and cultures and kids, and that's the way I remember it. Well, of course, there's some ugly stuff about Section 14, but the thing is, that is one horrible slice in our history. How are you addressing the rest of the story of Palm Springs? It's like the big picture has been totally lost. I mean, we can learn from any mistakes, we can try to do it better, but to try to heap the blame for this on one man who devoted his life to doing the very, very best that he possibly could have. And I've done some research on this. I can't find another city in the country that has a statue named for a city council member. So please try and figure out why people are
All right, Sid, your communication is cutting out, but we're at your time limit, so we appreciate you participating in your comments. Thank you very much. And the next I see is Renee Brown with a hand up. Renee, as soon as you unmute yourself, you'll have 3 minutes.
All right, I get a second chance. That's cool. My name's Renee Brown, and I'm a lifelong resident of the city of Palm Springs. I do want to state for the record that I believe what the Human Rights Commission and the council is doing is they're basically scapegoating Frank Bogart for all the wrongs that the entire city council, specific members of the tribe, the Chamber of Commerce, the hotel and tourism industry, the bankers, and the developers all perpetrated on the people who were removed from Section 14. I believe it is no more that I believe that this proclamation is no more than paying lip service to the wrong. This proclamation does not improve the life of one person or one family that was impacted by the cleanup and the demolition of buildings on Section 14. If the City Council wants to make amends for the wrongs perpetrated, it needs to be more than political rhetoric and platitudes. If the Human Rights Commission has established that wrongs were committed, then all who were responsible need to be named. The removal of the statute, in fact, implies that only Frank Bogart was responsible, and that itself is hypocritical. Many groups within the community financially benefited from the clearing of Section 14, including the tribe, developers, realtors, and the list goes on and on. I asked the City Council to put their money where their mouth is and establish a fund that would allow those families affected to borrow money to start businesses within the community. You know, if the Human Rights Commission has concluded that wrongs were committed by the city, then reparations are in order. Moving the statue is nothing more than a symbolic gesture. You know, that area out Gateway Estates, they need a grocery store. There are so many things that we could do to make life better than arguing over this statue. It's going to cost about 50 grand to move that statue. Why don't you put that in a fund so that minority youngsters could maybe start businesses to make their life a little better? You know, to me, this is political rhetoric, and it does nothing to solve the problem that the whole community of Palm Springs created. Anyway,
15
thank you.
seconds remaining. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, Renee Brown. I see next is Doug Evans.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. I submitted an email today with attachments from Viola Ortner's book, You Can't Eat Dirt. That is a very strong statement as to the condition of the tribe and its members in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. And this was a very long process. I hope you had a chance to take a look at that. The excerpts from the book are very telling of a very complicated set of circumstances. As currently written, your report is a compilation of information that doesn't present a clear picture. It's one-sided. It doesn't talk about the difficulties of the tribe in that time period. It doesn't talk about the hard work that the tribal council was undertaking and the fact that the city was the only government agency that was willing to step up and help tribal members and the tribal council. The federal government wasn't helping. The BIA was a nightmare. And I could go on and on about that. The federal laws were punishing. the tribal council turned to the city and asked for help. And the city, over a period of time, did everything they could to help. They were in a position that was very, very difficult. If you look at the annals of land use, and I'm a professional land use planner, I worked in Palm Springs for 26 years. I lived and breathed this town, technically, factually. It was one of the most difficult things that has occurred in the city, anywhere in California, and almost nationally. The tribal council was led by a very, very powerful group of women. Viola Ortner was chairman. Viola Ortner couldn't be pushed around by anybody. I got to know her. I got to see her as a planning commissioner and as a city council member and as a tribal member. This story that you've tried to create in your report is a disservice to the tribe. It's a disservice to the city because it doesn't completely cover the facts of what's occurred. I'd like to say that I looked at your mission statement and as presented, it's insulting to the difficult journey the tribe endured, fails to provide a true accounting of history, and it fails to educate the community fairly about what's going on. If this is about a statute, let's have an upfront discussion about the statute and whether or not it needs to be moved.
15 seconds left, Mr. Evans.
Thank you, sir. Frank Bogert was probably the strongest champion of Indian sovereignty and rights in the history of this city. He worked with tribal chairmen for years. And I implore you to, one, continue this item so you fix your report. It's not factual.
Thank you,
And
Mr. Evans.
you should rewrite it. And you should also put a list of who the authors are on it so we know who wrote it.
Evans,
That
your
would
time
be
is up. We appreciate your comments. And next we've got
Thank you.
Susan Smith, who isn't able to raise a hand, but we see in chat that Susan would like to speak. Susan, I don't know where you're at here, but this is your opportunity for public comment.
Okay, I'm here to speak out in full favor of Frank Bogert Memorial Statue standing where it is, because the narrative that Frank Bogert is accountable for the racism is wrong. He was not racist. The current city leads have gotten this all very wrong. Frank Bogert is a pioneer. Clearly, he served and dedicated his entire life towards community and the city of Palm Springs. Media is wrong, twists and spins. The AG report of the mid-1960s has been refuted. We will find the rebuttal to provide to you shortly. The HRC and mayor, current city council, to make this an issue is wrong. You cannot and must not ignore nor off-put the thousands of citizens who live and work in Palm Springs who oppose this resolution, and those who call this home from the 1940s to date who have their history here. Petition is unverified, not city clerk certified, and must not be any basis for the HRC or mayor or council movement here. This again is wrong. David Weiner. Petition is not only fake, but cooked up by him as just any memorial to attack, as was the summer of 2020 council culture pop thing to do. Let the city put this matter to a real, legitimate, legal, verified, certified petition or ballot, yet with nothing being done over the past 2 years here for health and safety, housing homeless, and lots of time wasted so far with little accomplished towards vagrant homeless situation. I request that this Frank Bogert Memorial situation be tabled for the next 5 years to allow city leads to actually account for getting our city safe, healthy, and homeless population under control and off of our city streets. And HRC can and should focus on the restroom being built at Jesse James Community Center, and also other issues there. That's a great project. And we also, again, need to house the homeless and set up a drug rehabilitation center for all of the problems on our city streets. I'm going to request that The ballot or this matter be set on the ballot for midterm elections. It can be added to, the national ballot and local ballot for the midterms, and then let the people of Palm Springs vote and give an opportunity for local residents and not a handful of folks who have only been here for 8 to 10
I'm sorry,
years.
5 seconds left.
Thank you. I appreciate your honoring my request, and I have sent a letter to this effect. If you will read it, please, I would appreciate it. Include it on the record tonight and for your consideration. Thank you.
Susan Smith, thank you for your comments. And the next hand I see is for Jarvis.
Hello, how are you guys doing? Thank you to the Human Rights Commission for giving us the opportunity, everyone the opportunity to speak and speak their mind. And also to everyone that stated what they had to say. That's one thing about freedom of speech. You get to speak. My family has too been in the city for many decades, 60 plus years. My family was not the ones that had horses to ride and on Section 14, around Section 14. They were not the ones that were able to have those great enjoying times of events and participating in events and going to different stores and locations. We were able to go to certain places, but we were not able to enjoy all that everyone else could due to, Blacks not being allowed in many places during that time. My grandmother, who recently passed, and she too was a pillar in the community of people that were forced off of Section 14. Many of them lost their homes. So when you lose your home, you too become homeless. So I just want to say that, yeah, we are dealing with a homeless issue now. And guess what? At that time, we dealt with the homeless issue then. Yes, the land is owned by the Agua Caliente Band of Indians, but let's be honest, and let's just say that they didn't understand the full breakdown of how to work their land. And so who stepped in to help them? Of course, there were these different people that we were talking about that assisted them with their land and times. And so to me, I feel some of them were even coerced to doing things with their land that they didn't realize that they were doing. There are many people that have done things to make this city what it is today. And some of those things were done not in a positive way. I agree, the entire city council and all the other folks and organizations, the bankers and all that had something to do with that. They were a part of the city planned Holocaust, which was quoted during the 1964 reports and articles, but none of them have a statue that is placed in front of City Hall. Removing the statue shows that we are helping heal a community. So thank you, Human Rights Commission, for stepping out on this to help heal a community. Thank you.
Thank you, Jarvis Crawford. Jay, I just want to make sure you notice that Representative Ella Cash is part of the meeting. All right, next hand I see is Tristan Milanovich. We'll give her a few seconds to figure out the technical difficulties here. Happens to all of us. All right, we'll come back to Tristan. Any other hands raised? I see Sidrano Valdez.
Sidronia, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I just want to be short. I can go on automatic for days on this subject because I lived in Section 14. I understand pain that the residents have gone through having this experience of being transported to other areas in the name of community development. I am sorry that we all went through this experience, but what's done is done. the Human Rights Commission has the responsibility of our pain. Here we're going through this again. I feel terrible about this, and so do other residents. When they are committed to heal our pain through all the redevelopment of the North End that they destroyed, then we'll be happy to cooperate with whatever they want to do. They can hold this topic in abeyance until they put their city dollars in redevelopment that they should have done many years ago. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tristan, do we have you hooked back up now?
Yes, I'm sorry. This is I'm new to the Zoom.
No,
But
you're connected now and we can hear you.
I'm connected and I'm microphone's on, obviously. Okay.
So you've got your 3 minutes, can start now.
Okay, so I submitted a letter, but I wanted to read it here aloud. My name is Tristan Milanovich, daughter of the late Richard Milanovich, who, as you know, served as tribal chairman of the Agua Caliente Band of Coya Indians, of which I am a member. I'm writing today, or speaking today, on behalf of the Richard Milanovich family and the family only. I previously wrote a letter to the Palm Springs City Council explaining our disapproval of the removal/relocation of Mayor Frank Bogert's statue. My father had nothing but respect and admiration for Frank. Their years-long friendship, both professionally and personally, is a testament to that fact. My father did not believe Frank to be a racist man. He wouldn't have spoken at his funeral if he believed him to be so. He would be absolutely appalled to know that his name is being used in this effort to remove the statue. We are absolutely appalled by it. It is disgusting that you would use his words, but even more so out of context, especially considering we feel that you are certainly unaware of what his feelings were on the matter and what his feelings were for the man at the heart of this issue. This is our formal request that you remove any quotes as well as any mention of my father, Richard Milanovich, in the Human Rights Commission's resolution, Frank Bogert, institutionalized segregation, discriminatory practices, and civic leadership in Palm Springs, 1958 through 1966. We do not agree with any mention of him, and it is our firm belief that he would feel the same. And again, we, as well as what we believe, that my father would not believe in the removal or relocation of this statue. Thank you for your time today.
Tristan Milanovich, thank you very much for your comments. I see Janelle Hunt with the hand up.
Thank you. I would like to thank the Human Rights Commission for hearing everyone out as we speak about the removal of the Frank Bogert statue. By now, you, the Human Rights Commission, have been made aware of the Frank Bogert statue. The fact that it is still an issue, a topic, shows just how there are disparities that are ugly that still exist within the city of Palm Springs. People claim that reaccounts of Section 14 are absurd. Those that claim the accounts of Section 14 that have been shared are absurd. Did you live on Section 14? Sometimes history can be a little foggy for those who were entitled. So if the city has an ugly past, then why not eradicate everything tied to the ugly past? I feel as though the message is being misunderstood. The statue that stands in front of our government building, a government building that allows a statue, a man who played a role in uplifting families, children, and personal belongings, does not represent the entire communities of people that live within the walls of the city of Palm Springs. A memory of a relative of mine that still resides within the Desert Highland Gateway Estates area shared with me that she collected the dolls that she had in her house that she was able to gather from when she left Section 14. The statue represents hurt that has been in existence for years. And if you're truly trying to right the wrongs, then start with removing the statue. People are having to relive the anguish all over because there are residents in the city of Palm Springs that do not understand some of the painful hurt that Frank Bogert was part of. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Janelle Hunt. Jay, do you have anybody else in the queue?
Shonda Favreau is in the queue, Mr. Chair.
Say it again.
Shonda,
Gotcha. Shonda, you're on. I'm looking for you.
Thank you, Human Rights.
Oh, there you are.
Up there, here I am. Thank you so much for this proposal in order to take down the statue in front of City Hall. Unfortunately, it is dividing the city in a way that the city needs to be unified. I'm really disappointed that this is still dividing us. There's a group of people that are hurt by this symbol, and there's another group of people that are empowered by this symbol. And it's time to take down these symbols in dividing us as a community. I mean, there's the group of people are saying, hey, this person did this to us. And there's another group of people saying, he didn't do anything to us. Well, it's time to listen to the group of people that are hurt. It's really time for our city to heal and for us to set that example for us to heal as a nation. Please, I would like everyone to take it into your heart, take it into consideration. If something was in front of a building that offended you, you would want it down. It offends a group of people. It doesn't offend everybody. But the fact that it's offending the Black community of Palm Springs, it's time. We've seen enough hurt and enough destruction and enough hate. We have to be the catalyst for healing and for change. And the time is now for Palm Springs to do that and to set the example that as a city, we can learn and heal and discuss and talk about our differences. And this statue can be moved to maybe his grave or someplace else or melted down so it can fund projects for the betterment of the whole community, not for a specific group of people. That's no longer in fashion. That's no longer what we are doing as a humanity. I understand for the older generation, it's very nostalgic for us, but for a lot of people, it's a constant reminder of hate. And that is not what our city is about. Take the statue down.
Shwanda, thank you for your comments. I don't have your last name. Can you say it one more time, please?
Favreau, F as in Frank, A, V as in Victor, E, A, U.
All right, thank you very much.
Chair, there has been a Jose Higueras with his hand up for quite a while. I don't think that you have seen him.
Jose, I'm looking for you.
And I do
okay, I see
apologize.
Jose Higueras.
Jose's name wrong, but
Yeah,
yes.
Jose, once you unmute yourself, you have 3 minutes. And thank you for being patient.
Yeah, thank you for letting me speak. While Frank's contributions to the city are well known, here are few lesser known facts about him. His first wife was Jewish. Upon her death in 1974, he married Neji Boger, a Mexican national from San Miguel de Allende. His daughter is married to a Spaniard, that's me, and his grandson, an El Salvadorian. He has Spanish grandchildren and great-grandchildren. He loved and unconditionally supported a close gay relative. And later on in his life, counted members of the gay community as some of his closest friends, including Michael Hill, whose letter to the city last year is attached in the appendix. He served with the Extension during World War II, fighting the very ideology of prejudice and racism that he is now falsely accused of. He called Mexico his second home, was loved by his citizens, and was given the Golden Spur Award by the Mexican Java Association, the first white man to ever receive the honor. He was close with the city's African-American leaders, including Lawrence Crossley and Reverend Rawlings. Rawlings was among the first people to console Frank at his home after the death of his first wife. He relentlessly championed for the rights, sovereignty, and independence of various Native American tribes. He lobbied in Washington, D.C. on their behalf, and he ultimately helped them in getting the Equalization Act in 1959 passed, which provided the tribes lands with 99-year leases, thereby enabling them to develop them for financial gain. He counted numerous tribal members as among his closest friends, including Richard Milanovich, Pete Shiva, Bernie Siva, and Joe Patencio. Over 800 people of all races, I like to see of all races, sexual orientations, economic classes, political parties, attended his funeral. The funeral was held in a Jewish temple. Among the speakers at his funeral were Richard Milanovich, chairman of the Agua Caliente tribe, Mary Bono, the wife of a political opponent, Steve Pune, a gay former mayor of the city, and Rabbi Horowitz, one of his best friends. Boger was a constant defender of minorities, a proponent of social justice,
20
and a promoter.
seconds left.
Excuse me?
20 seconds left, please.
Yeah, and a promoter of minority interests. Despite being barred from joining private clubs at the time, Boger pushed for Jewish people to be accepted on 4 different occasions. Boger wrote a recommendation letters for Reverend Rawlings' son in an attempt to get him accepted to a school in Long Beach area. Frank Boger was my father-in-law and my best friend. And I will challenge anybody in the call to actually prove to me that he was anything but a racist. He was one of the best men I've ever known.
Time is
Thank you.
expired. Thank you, Mr. Higueras.
Thank you, Mr. Higueras. Do I have any other hands? Jody, was your hand? No.
I see no others raised in the chat, Mr. Chair, and no hands raised in the images.
I see Diana Russell. I see you waving your hand there. You've got 3 minutes. Thank you very much.
Russell, and I am the wife of Frank Bogert's grandson, Frank. My husband just recently passed away, but I know he would want me to speak on his behalf. He loved his grandfather and respected him very, very, very much, as I did. I came to the family, and you can see, Jose Higueras already mentioned how many different cultures are part of this family. His wife was Mexican. I'm sorry, his wife is Mexican. I am from El Salvador. So he was very happy when he met me. He was really happy knowing that his grandson married somebody from a Latin culture. He loved Mexican culture so, so much. And I was so impressed of how much he knew about Latin American culture. So my husband and Frank, they were very close. And I know my husband highly respected him and admired him in every single way. My 2 kids, one is 10 years old. We named him after Frank. His name is Frank Russell. And my little one is 6 years old. They all know so much about Frank. They like to go and see the statue. They are so proud of knowing that his grandfather is in the statue in front of the city hall. So I have read portions of your resolutions, and although I'm not a serious historian, I know that many of the things that they are stating about Frank Bogert are far, far, far from the truth. So I wish, and God willing, going forward, it is my hope that the true facts will come out. And I, thank you for the time, but this is a really, really sad time for the family, especially because all the things that are coming out are not true. And I can tell you, I'm part of this family. I met him, I love him, I admire him, and he had a huge heart. And other cultures far, far, far from racist for all the horrible things that I'm being reading. It is not true. Thank you for the time.
Diana Russell, thank you very much. Tuck, I see you have a hand raised.
Yes, I do.
Go
I sent a letter, about 2 hours ago to the city clerk to be entered into this, but I'd just like to read it to you if I could. I was a member of the Palm Springs City Council when we approved the placement of Frank Bogart's statue in front of City Hall. At that time, we had enormous support from the public for placing a statue where it has now been for the past 30 years. In fact, the city council chambers were absolutely full, standing room only outside. We actually put up monitors out there for overcrowded. I'm wondering what has changed. Is it because you never met the man, as every citizen back then did? Frank was one of the people who actually put Palm Springs on the map through his tireless actions to promote the city. How can you justify changing history by removing the statue? In my opinion, you can't. And I'm requesting that you vote no on 7A and 7B tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that, Jay, I don't see any others.
I believe that is all, Mr. Chair. But let me ask, does anybody know of anyone else trying to enter the meeting? I don't see anyone in the waiting room, but I believe it's clear. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all speakers we have.
All right, thank you. Okay. We will move forward with the agenda, and before we do that, I just want to acknowledge the comments that were received tonight. I am aware that there were some email letters sent to the city clerk and city council late this afternoon. A number of them came too late for me personally to review, but we certainly will, and they will be entered into record. And we show a great appreciation to everybody who participated in providing comment at the April 12th meeting. I think, certainly hearing input is extremely important for all of us in the community, and it's how we learn, how we move forward. But there's a misunderstanding that we're here to do something against Frank Bogart based off of racism. We certainly acknowledge Frank Bogart's incredible role with the development of Palm Springs, putting Palm Springs on the map, and actually, being a father of Palm Springs. So that's not something that's in question. And there seems to be misunderstanding that his personality and his contributions to the city are being attacked, and they are not. We actually are recognizing his efforts. For the next item we have is chair comments. And again, I'd like to say great thanks to everyone who has submitted emails, comments, letters, and taken the time to reach out to us, both those that are in favor of leaving the monument where it is, and those that are sharing their experiences as to why they feel it should not be on public property. So thank you. That is incredibly valuable to us. And many thanks to the fellow commissioners who've offered some constructive criticism and feedback as we've moved along in this process. And in most cases, all of the comments that were received were heartfelt, and they certainly were informative. So we appreciate everybody's participation. Now that we're moving to receive the report and have those discussions, I feel it would be helpful to start with a little bit of background. Preparing for this report resulted in gathering 127 separate primary and secondary resources and 214 cited footnotes. Documents were obtained through the Palm Springs City Palm Springs archives from the California Digital Newspaper Collection, the Los Angeles Times, the Palm Springs Public Library, the Smithsonian, the Palm Springs Historical Society, newspapers.com, the New York Times, the Center for Legislative Archives, WorldCat, and genealogybank.com. As we went through and prepared the report, careful analysis was taken to disentangle accusatory language, anecdotal information, and opinions presented in public as fact. Credible sources were used to support report findings, including Palm Springs-based George Ringwald, the journalist with Press Enterprise, who received a Pulitzer Prize for his investigative expose on the Section 14 mishandling of property in Indian estates. Reliable sources include the New York Times, who's won 130 Pulitzer Prizes for excellence in journalism, and the Los Angeles Times, who has been recognized by winning the Pulitzer 47 times. Experts in the fields of mid-century urbanization and sociology of racism help us see through the opinionated lens and present findings in a factual presentation. One should not discount the anecdotal or accusatory as anecdotal or accusatory the acclaimed documentation from Ryan Cray, who has a PhD in history at the University of California. Cray's publications bring renowned historians, field experts in humanities and social sciences to the table. Most importantly, Cray's primary source one-on-one interviews, both in person and on the telephone, with individuals who experienced the forced evictions, property destruction, and displacement are significant, undisputable, firsthand accounts. To discount the State Attorney General's report as the only official comment on the events surrounding Section 14, and that the report is absent of any formal charges, calls for an understanding of the Department of Justice, the Secretary of Interior, and the House of Representatives investigative process. The State Attorney General's report certainly concluded that the razing and burning of minority homes in the downtown center of Palm Springs, and the removal of their residents from the city was nothing less than a city-engineered Holocaust. The report may not carry a jail sentence, but it did worse. It charged the city for human rights violations, which directly impacted working class residents. The report also set the stage for federal legislation that abolished the Palm Springs Conservator and Guardianship Program and condemned several members of the city's elite for unethical practices against their Native American wards. This also included the May 28, 1968 investigation by the United States Secretary of Interior that found Frank Bogart guilty of fee splitting and ordered all improperly gained fees held in trust for the landowner. Terms such as dehumanization, devaluation of lives, persecution, and terrorizing are very difficult to hear and acknowledge. However, it is the harsh reality of urban renewal in blighted areas in the 1950s and 1960s. Talk with those who experienced the forced evictions, and we will all gain an understanding of the trauma they experienced. It must be understood and be stated very clearly. Frank Bogart was not the only city official involved in evictions and displacement. However, he is the only one with a statue on public property at City Hall. This report is intended to provide an opportunity to bridge differences and help raise awareness. Some may feel the recommendation to move the monument is a political effort made to appease one other group. Well, they are indeed correct. We acknowledge the hurt in our city, and we try to learn more about the unresolved trauma. And for 32 years, the voice that has been silenced, the voice that has told us that the Frank Bogart Monument, which stands in front of City Hall, is a hurtful symbol of systemic racism, we say to them, we hear you. And with those comments on behalf of the chair, we will move on to the next item, and that would be item number 7A, which is set. 7A is to close the Bogart Monument Report review period for the commissioners and accept the commissioners' edits, receive the final Bogart Monument Report dated April 28, 2021, and forward to the Palm Springs City Council. So we are at a point of 7A, and a little bit on why we're here on 7A. After last month's meeting, or after the April 12th meeting, we reviewed schedules and timing of what needed to be done for a public posting to make sure the community is aware of everything that's being done. And we realized that the public feedback time period that we had originally stated of 28 days for commissioners to get back with us was going to be too long and not give public time for review of the document. So the commissioners were asked to pass their comments, suggestions, edits, and any additional thoughts on to our staff liaison. And the comments were received up to 8 a.m. on Wednesday, April 28th. An updated report was then posted on Thursday, April 29th with the special meeting notice. So do we have any discussion on item 7A? If we have
Yes.
no, go ahead.
My name is Susan Smith, and
Susan, I'm sorry, this is the discussion is
close?
for the commissioners. I appreciate your contributions. Commissioners, if we don't have any discussion, I will invite a motion to close the Bogart Monument Report review period for commissioners and accept the commissioners' edits and receive the final Bogart Monument Report dated April 28, 2021. Do we hear a motion to accept the report?
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion, we accept the report.
Motion by Commissioner Flood, second by Commissioner Shepard. Any further discussion by commissioners on this item? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye or raising your hand. Any, Edwin? Oh, okay. Any opposition? Do I? Was that unanimous, Jay? Or any abstentions? One abstention, Commissioner Andrade. Motion carries to close the Bogart Monument review period and accept the report to forward on to City Council. Next,
Mr. Chairman, when somebody makes an abstention, they have to state the purpose and the cause of the extension. They cannot just say, I abstain.
Thank you, Mr. Evans.
Thank you.
We've recorded her abstention and the motion carries. Item 7B is the next item on the agenda, and that's to ratify the resolution, which is entitled Resolution of the City of Palm Springs Human Rights Commission recommending the removal of the Frank Bogart Monument from the front of Palm Springs City Hall. Now with this item, let me provide a little updated background. The full resolution is on page 463 through 466 of the report, with additional comments that were received from commissioners. The resolution that was presented on April 12th was edited to add additional comments from commissioners and add additional primary sources to be cited in the resolution, and a change in the name of the resolution to recommend the removal of the monument. So those are the modifications that were made between April 12th and today's posting. So we are at item 7A. Do we have a motion to ratify the resolution as stated in the agenda? Vice Chair Chappelle, who seconds the motion? Do we have a second on the motion?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Flood seconds the motion. Is there any further discussion on the resolution before it goes to vote?
Yes,
Commissioner Andrade.
thank you. I wish that I could join my fellow commissioners in their overwhelming support of the issue before us. But the court of public opinion for me does not grant the right to sacrifice the dignity of one human being for the actions of many. To be truthful, in the last several days, I have spent more time reviewing the Human Rights Commission's goals and mission statement than I have these documents and reports. In part, we speak of our commitment to promote and protect the diversity of our community, to improve human relations by bringing groups together, and in order to educate and advocate for our shared rights. You know, there are many lasting and meaningful ways to confront a racist past, but we're deluding ourselves to think that removing a statue will make any difference in the systemic inequalities of race, class, or gender in our city or our society for that matter. But fostering conversations and understanding, equipping future leaders invested in diversity, empowering and including all the people and all the facts, that's what will keep us from being victims of history. Because usually, if we know better, we do better. As the commissioner, I believe we've overlooked a valuable opportunity to fulfill the purpose and model the ideals that we claim to uphold. But I do see another chance in rethinking this recommended action in favor of a plan to outreach and interactive community involvement, one to demonstrate the sincerity of our city's apologetic offering with actions to secure our future instead of tearing down our past. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Commissioner Andrade. Any other commissioner comments? I will make a few comments. I think it continues to be important to me to realize and have an understanding that if we had not even a single page of documentation that talks about the role of the human rights violations of the forced evictions and what leadership could have done to change that outcome. If we had not even a half a page of written text, all I need is to hear from the residents who lived through the atrocity themselves and the generations of hurt that continue to exist in our community. I don't need to hear anything else. We know of the hurt that has been caused in this community. The community has told us for 32 years, and we have not listened. We have not listened to a community that has told us that this statue is not a statue of our Western heritage. It's not a statue of meaning of our founding father. Because it's placed at the footsteps of the entrance of City Hall on public property, that statue really is a symbol of the racism that they have experienced in their family for 3 generations within our city. And not even within the city boundaries. When they were kicked out of the city, it wasn't even part of city limits. We kicked them out of the city to move on the outskirts of the city of Palm Springs. So to me, it's important that we hear from the residents, and the residents have spoken. The residents have shared with us their thoughts. We've heard directly from them, and that's what matters to me. So I appreciate that.
Chair, can I just say something as well?
Yes, please.
Okay. I have heard from the people of Palm Springs, and I have read, and I do believe that there are always 2 sides, 2 opinions, good people, and we are all aware that there is history that kept people out or took people out of areas and of places where other people were free to go. I have read good things, but I've also read things that are very sad to hear happened to people. As a person who has worked with the underprivileged my entire adult life, I have to think that when something of the past that is hurtful to the people in the present, not that Mr. Bogart is it is the representation that his statue brings to a group of people. And unfortunately, again, he is the only person who has that type of representation. So for the people of our town who have to drive past that, and remember what happened to them or to the people that they loved in these times. It is a human rights concern. And so I just wanted to add my thoughts. There are still lots of hurtful things that happen to people every day, terms that are used, practices that continue. And it comes from years and years and years of people's life experiences or the times or whatever. But if change is going to happen and people are going to be equal, and history, I hope will continue to show us how to do better.
Thank you, Vice Chair Chappelle. Okay, with no further comment from commissioners, the motion on the floor is to ratify the resolution entitled Resolution of the City of Palm Springs Human Rights Commission recommending the removal of the Frank Bogart Monument from the front of Palm Springs City Hall. All in favor, signify by saying aye or raise your hand. Oppose? And abstain. So Jay, I've shown 3 approve, 1 abstention, and 1 no.
Chair, can you tell us how that vote went? Was I counted?
Yeah, Jay, you want to do roll call on vote?
Yes.
Because it's actually 4. I didn't count myself.
Okay.
Roll call vote. Commissioner Andrade,
No.
Commissioner Flood,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramaran.
I need a point of clarification because I had stepped away for a second. Can you, Chair DeHart, do you mind reading what we're voting on? Because I thought there was a detail to it that I missed. So I apologize. I'm taking care of my mom. I just want to be wholeheartedly here for this.
Sure, no problem at all. So we're voting on right now to ratify the resolution entitled Resolution of the City of Palm Springs Human Rights Commission recommending the removal of the Frank Bogart Monument from the front of Palm Springs City Hall. So we're doing a roll call vote right now, and Jay is called on Commissioner Ramaran's vote.
It makes mine yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Shepard,
Yes.
Vice Chair Chappelle,
Yes.
Chair DeHart.
Yes, for me.
There are 5 ayes and 1 no, Mr. Chair, no abstentions.
Okay, motion carries, and we will forward our recommendation to City Council for the meeting on May 20th. We're now on item 8, adjournment. The commission will adjourn to a special joint meeting with the Palm Springs City Council Thursday, May 20th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. Via Zoom. So thank you all for attending.